and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you very much for being here. If you're new, welcome. If you are binging this, I bow to you. Oh my gosh. You guys, it's funny how many people I've talked to recently that are binging my podcast before they meet with me. They're trying to listen to everything, and I commend you. I can be a lot for some people. So I am glad that you like them and that you are finding them valuable. In fact, last week when I met with somebody, he said the podcasts are amazing. He's like, between the books and the podcasts, like, I'm ready to go. I know everything that I need to know because the podcasts are a game changer and super informative. So thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm glad that you guys are liking these. Okay, let's talk today about land values, inflation, just what's going on in the economy. What should we be expecting? Well, here's my short answer. I don't know. If you want to discontinue listening right now, you can. I don't think anybody knows, frankly. I have listened to so many podcasts, Austrian economics, people that I really believe had a grasp and some great predictions on what was going to happen before 08 and 09. Today don't have squat. I have not heard an actual answer. People like to talk about it in circles, which is exactly what I'm going to do today because I don't have any answers either. And that's why I usually don't even like to talk about it. But nobody knows what's going to happen. And there's so many variables to why that is. And, you know, I just met with a realtor 2 weeks ago from this recording, and that realtor told me that she knows of somebody that sold a house last fall. They moved into an apartment. They were going to build this spring. All was great. $750,000 to build. Now we are 7 months later. They just got their new numbers back and we are at $1.2 million. That, I put that in my little handy dandy calculator. That is an 83% increase in 7 months. In 7 months. Now, what if that stays for a year? What if that is a 12-month and we don't go up any further? Let me put that in my little handy dandy calculator. If we don't even increase anything in the next 12 months, we're at a 48% increase. What's the likelihood that that's going to happen? That we're going to be able to just stay right where we're at for the next 12 months. We just keep printing money. We just keep bailing people out. Okay, so if Nelson always said it, right? If the government creates the problem and then they create the solution, we should be concerned. If we are not concerned about what's going on right now, please pay attention. Pay attention. And I am sure anybody that's paying attention is listening to this already. So I have a lot of clients that are wanting to buy farm ground. I have a lot of clients that are wanting to buy real estate, including me. And so I'm looking at farm ground myself. I'm looking at real estate myself, going, geez, do we pull the plug? Do we buy something? Or do we just say, nope, you know what? I'm going to wait for this to crash. My friends, I have been looking at this for 2 years. I don't usually procrastinate on stuff. If I want something, I just go do it. I have been watching 2 years ago. People are like, oh my gosh, it's going to crash. I'm listening to Robert Kiyosaki. I'm listening to Peter Schiff. I'm listening to the Anderson business advisors. Okay. I'm on all aspects of it. And I'm open-minded about it. I'm not like, oh gosh, Peter Schiff really is like the doomsdayer. Like everything's going to crash, but Peter Schiff doesn't really know when. Robert Kiyosaki, kind of the same. But what's interesting is Robert Kiyosaki had a podcast just recently where he interviewed Peter Schiff, and he just let Peter Schiff have it. But Kiyosaki is saying people are selling real estate or buying real estate way more than what it's worth. So I want to sell, but I don't know what to do with my money if I sell my real estate. Well, Peter Schiff is saying, put it in the market. Kiyosaki said, you're a moron. I'm not putting it in the market. Everybody's got their opinions, right? The one thing that we know is that prices are going up. The other thing that I was listening to was I have a colleague who I cannot think, Infinite Wealth, I think is the name of their podcast, Anthony Faso. And he interviewed a demographer, which I would love to also interview this demographer, and we'll reach out to him at some point. But this was very fascinating to me because it puts a whole twist on kind of the market that nobody has talked about. The fact that we have more millennials than baby boomers. Yes, you heard that right. Most people don't understand or don't know. I did not know that we have had more millennials have been born than there were baby boomers. So we have a shortage of housing in this country. Well, if we have a shortage of housing, that means that nothing's going to happen to the housing market in my little pea brain. How can the housing market come down when all of our older millennials are moving into their second homes essentially, and our late millennials are moving into their first-time homebuyer homes? What's going to happen to the market on the residential rental side of things? Do we have enough rental properties for all of these millennials? And what's funny is this guy said that a lot of the millennials want to travel and work. They don't want to necessarily be tied down. So that means that they're doing a lot of VRBOs, short-term rental stuff, so they can go here, experience that area, move, go somewhere else, and then they just kind of end up where they end up, I suppose. So if that's the case, are we going to see an 08 and an 09? Then I've listened to other podcasts. I believe I was listening to Bigger Pockets, and that guy was like, oh yeah, I was all ready for the 08, 09 stuff to happen and wait for the market to crash. But he's like, that's not going to happen because why? The Fed is raising interest rates right now, but they are purposely raising rates very slow so that we don't have a panic and we don't have a market crash. So I believe tomorrow, Wednesday, the 23rd, so I'm recording this on the 22nd. I believe on the 23rd, they're supposed to raise rates again. Are they going to go 0.25%, 0.5%? I don't know. They already raised them a week ago, another 0.25%. And so people think, oh my gosh, that's too much. It's 4.1% interest to buy a house. Can I kindly remind y'all that in the 80s, it was 23%? And here's another thing. If they're going to raise rates on what they're charging, the feds are charging for money, could we get our savings rates increased? Because that in the 80s was like an 18% savings rate, 18% CDs, higher bonds. Nobody wants the rates to come up for consuming things except me. I feel like I'm alone. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to pay high interest rates to buy things, but I've done a podcast on this before. We are buying ourselves into massive debt because we think money is so cheap that we can't afford not to buy a tractor, a side-by-side, right? A combine. We can't afford not to. I hear that all the time. Well, I couldn't afford not to. Even at 2%, it's still lost interest. It's lost control of that loan if we've got it through a bank. I don't care how you spin that and tell me I'm wrong. I may have a little arrival syndrome on that one. You owe money to somebody else. They now control the loan and you work for them to make the payment. You're working for them. You now are making their payroll. Think about this. We need interest rates to come up. If interest rates go up, this is what the feds believe. If interest rates go up, it's going to slow down how people are buying. Is it? When we have older people still think 4% is not a big deal. It's not a big deal. It's 4%. You know who thinks this is a lot? Millennials, who are used to 2%, 3% interest rates, 0% interest credit cards. If we actually had interest rates where they should be, we would not be over purchasing. Interest rates are low so that what? Oh, we can keep the economy going. You know who we're keeping going? Credit card companies and banks. That's who we're keeping going. And then when we lose our jobs for 2 weeks, we can't even make our payment. Then we have to print more money to solve that problem. So the feds lower rates, so we spend more money, and then they print money to give us money to make the payments. Are they not the ones creating the problem, and then they create the solution? Are we not doing exactly what Nelson is talking about in becoming your own banker? Yes. And crazy that he could foresee it, 20 years ago? He saw it happening through his entire lifetime. We are not paying attention to it. When oil left North Dakota for a short period, oil's still here, but when the big boom left a few years back, I thought, oh my gosh, the bubble's going to burst. The housing market is going to come down. Guess what? It all leveled off. It didn't come down. It just leveled off. What's happening with land prices? Is farm ground going to go down in price? And there are certain areas of the country, like I have some clients in southwest Nebraska, southern Colorado, where it's really, really dry. And they are seeing a tick down in land prices, but it's dry. Nobody wants to farm there, and nobody's moving there, or wasn't, last time I talked to this client. So, and that was maybe prior to COVID. I need to call him. So is land really holding? Is it going to hold? Because when I talk to people in Iowa, Minnesota, wherever, guess what? Texas, Kansas, Nebraska, land is not coming down in price. Big, huge companies, Chinese companies, whoever, are coming in and buying it up. So if we want to protect it, we better make an estate plan. Yeah, for sure. Otherwise, in 2008 and 2009, or when commodity prices really tanked 6-7 years ago, when we went from $7 corn to nothing, did land prices fall? They tend to stay steady from what I see. No, I am no economist, so don't go beating me up and being like, Mary Jo, you don't know, because I really don't know. I'm just sharing what I see. So we are all freaking out about what's happening, but nobody can actually tell us what's happening and what's going to happen, because we've never seen what's happening in this country right now. I can tell you one thing for certain. Every recession that we go to, or that every recession after the big downside, every one of them gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger every single time it happens. And since 2020, when COVID hit, the feds are printing money like crazy. What's going to happen? When we do finally crash and burn, what's going to happen in that recession? And when is it? Is everything just going to level off? Is it going to tank? I do think that there may be areas where it does tank, but are the banks lending money without the down payment? They are. I know people firsthand who have bought homes with 1% to 2% down. The banks lent you that other 98%. When FSA lends you money to buy land at 0% down, 1% down, how do we do that? They lent us the money. Those are great programs as long as we can make those payments. Can we make the payments? I don't know. We are in times that I don't know that we can compare to the past as much as I've been trying to compare them to the past, and I have. That's why I've been sitting and waiting for years, because I've been trying to compare them to the past. But when you look at what's happening and the amount of people we have with millennials and how they are behaving compared to how our baby boomers and our generation Y and X's and whatever my generation is called, we acted much differently. We were okay to just stay where we're at. We were still brainwashed to think we work a job and we're 30 and out and a pension will take care of us. That is not the case for this new generation. And there's a lot of them. A lot of them. I don't know how we predict it, but I do know one thing. If you are farming, if you are handing off a business, please do the estate plan. Please, please, please figure out how to keep that land in the family without having somebody else have to go to the bank and buy it when we don't know what's going to happen with prices and with interest rates. We don't want a repeat of the 80s in the farming world. We need to plan. So please do that. It's our job to protect ourselves as best we can, because there's a little bit of risk in absolutely everything that we do. Not planning makes that risk bigger. We can listen to whoever. Let me tell you, every day I hear something different. Every stinking day. We don't know. I've listened to guys talk about farm ground. What's going to happen there? Nobody knows. All we know is big corporations are coming in and they're bidding everybody up. Let's do some contract for deeds. Let's just be better about that side of it. Okay, guys, the whole podcast, I should have just named it, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Oh gosh, because it really is. It really is. I don't know what to do, but it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Okay, let me know if you have comments, if you have a podcast topic that I have not talked about that you want me to talk about. I'm happy to do that if I'm able to. As always, if you've not gotten the book, go to farmingwithoutthebank.com, grab the book there, and I'll see you in the next podcast. Have a good one.